So that initial investment, obviously starting out in the UK, so you finish at UCL, and then once you finish the year, you go in to try to make this startup a reality.
Yeah.
Where do you start at that point? Because I think the story that a lot of people know, I think you make it sound very easy, but knowing where to start on that process, you've obviously had a bit of breathing space with being at UCL and be able to develop things which some people don't get. They're building businesses on the side, whatever it might look like, right? So what's the first step for you that you guys went about? Were you going to raise more money? Was it getting product out there? Where did you start?
So our first step was to get product so that we could start selling or trialing it with customers. And that kind of to get the product, that was quite a long process, or I think took us about 6 months or something, because especially back then, the drinks industry was very much centered around very big companies. And I think now it's definitely better. And now with the whole craft movement over the past 8 years, there's lots of ways to produce smaller quantities now. Yeah. But back then, I remember when we went to every filling plant or every kind of the glass bottle or the label suppliers or the crown caps that close your caps, like the different kind of raw materials, everything was minimum order quantities, 100,000 units, 1 million units, 500. Wow. So absolutely out of order. Yeah, crazy.
Because now you can get something for 1,000
Exactly.
units.
Now it's quite easy actually. But back then it just didn't really exist, those smaller fillers or things. So we found someone in North London who had a homemade machine, kind of something probably not totally up to standard, via. And he said, okay, you can come to my house basically, or he had a little kind of garage.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can produce there on Saturday and Sundays when I'm not producing my own stuff.
As in you go.
Yeah, we did that ourselves and my boyfriend. And so we just hand bottled glass that we bought off Amazon, or I mean, like not a professional filler. And we filled every, I think, 6 nights or something over the weekend.
That's the fun bit of building a brand, though, right?
Exactly.
Like, you look back now and it's probably hilarious. At the time, you're probably like, you know, somewhat naive, somewhat like, what are we walking into? You don't really have the stresses of building a brand on your. Do you remember those sort of nights quite well?
Yeah, I do. I think it's super fun, but I did think at the time, like, this is so absolutely unscalable. If it works, what are we gonna do? Because I mean,
so you are always thinking a little bit further ahead in that
a little bit
stage to be like, what's going on?
I mean, but we hadn't sold a bottle, so I mean, not really.
So at that point, you're just trying to get product to then go and have the conversations with, and because today you don't really have a huge retail business. You know, a lot of it's for hospitality. So was that the goal in the first stages of building the brand, and what was the objective of the brand at that time?
So we always wanted to do hospitality as a core business and not to grocery retail, because I really believe in brands being built in hospitality so that consumers can experience it in the kind of best environment, with a bartending, explaining it in a perfect serve, in a nice glass with right ice cubes, rather than launching in retail. You're kind of dependent on the consumer doing their serves, however. And if you get one bad experience, you're never going to win that customer back. So I think we were always very much focused, okay, hospitality is it. And we wanted to stay focused on super premium. And so when we had that first 6,000 bottles, we just...
6,000?
Yeah.
You made 6,000?
We made 6,000 bottles.
Wow. It's a lot of bottles to make by hand.
Yeah, exactly. Our car could fit 400 bottles. So it was a lot of back and forth.
12 trips.
Yeah. Wow. So we just with those samples, we just knocked on doors and we said, okay, we need to visit at least 12 customers per day. And so we just we first started in Mayfair and visited all cocktail bars, and then all 5-star hotels, and then all kind of premium restaurants. And then we went to Soho. We did the same there. Yeah. And I think that is probably, then it becomes a little bit more real. But then you have to get those first customers on board, and obviously it's like you're selling Bible, right? It's like, hello, I have my name is I'm selling a tonic water. Is your jam here? I mean, nobody's really interested. But then you get so many no's, and then you get the first yes. Or
do you remember the first yes you personally got?
Yeah, I do.
Do you know who it was?
Yeah, it was in Mayfair, a kind of a rooftop. It doesn't exist anymore, I think. And he said like, I'll give you a chance and I'll stock it.
Yeah.
I'll put it on a cocktail. And then he gave us super kindly. I have a mate in the Dorchester and a mate who works there. And he gave us like 5 or 6 good friends of his who he said, I'll call them that you are passing by and you can pass by with my regards.
That's
and that was super kind.